What if what they call a flaw in you is exactly the proof that you were never ordinary? What if that discreet scar on your chest, that inexplicable bump on your back, or that subtle line between your eyebrows are more than just body marks? What if they are memories? Fragments of a choice made before you were even born? You may have lived your whole life believing you were just another one, but what if your body has been trying to tell you for a long time that you're not from here? That you came with a purpose that the world doesn't have eyes to see? The pain of not fitting in, the tiredness of feeling too much, the strange sensation of carrying a weight that no one understands are not weaknesses. They are symptoms of a deep forgetfulness. Symptoms of someone who accepted to descend into this world carrying light, but was shrouded by a veil. Perhaps you've ignored the clues. Perhaps you've learned to call them coincidences, genetics, inheritance, bad luck. But what if these clues are actually silent codes left in your body as sacred reminders? Seals that resist time, logic, medicine, and only reveal themselves when the soul begins to awaken? If along this journey you've recognized any of these marks on yourself, don't keep it to yourself. Write in the comments, "I bear the marks." This gesture can help other souls who are still silently trying to understand what they feel. And if something inside you has been touched today, if some old memory has awakened or a forgotten part has finally made sense, subscribe to the channel. The next revelations won't just be videos. They'll be sacred reminders of what you've come to fulfill. In this video, you'll discover something that was never taught in school or preached aloud in church. You will understand the true meaning of 3 spiritual marks that are born with certain human beings and which, according to ancient texts forgotten by official history, are direct signs that these souls have accepted a mission that transcends common understanding. If you watch to the end, you'll realize that you weren't left here by mistake, that your pain has meaning, and that these marks on your body are perhaps the only visible reminder of an agreement made between worlds, a pact of the soul, a surrender of light. I know what I'm talking about, because I also carried this silence for a long time. I also felt that there was something wrong with me, until I realized that what was wrong wasn't what I felt, but the world that was trying to convince me that it didn't mean anything. When I realized that the marks weren't flaws, but keys, everything changed. And now, it's your turn to remember. There's something your body has been trying to tell you for years, but you've never been able to hear it. Because it doesn't scream, it whispers, and the modern world, with its noise and superficial explanations, has taught you to ignore these whispers as if they were nothing. But the truth is that the body is the first guardian of your spiritual mission. Even before the mind awakens, before the soul remembers, it is the body that carries the traces of what you have been, what you have accepted to be, and what you still need to fulfill. We're not talking about diseases, genetics, or accidents. We're talking about fixed signs, marks that were born with you. Silent seals that medicine can't explain and science ignores, but that the ancient masters knew very well. Because they knew that the spirit, on descending to earth, would leave certain codes engraved on the body, visible records of an agreement made before the flesh. These marks don't appear later. They are older than your memory. And if you learn to decipher them, everything changes. The first of them is exactly where hardly anyone looks. You've never noticed it, but there's a spot on your body where the sky has tried to leave a souvenir. It's between your shoulders, right in the center of your back, an area we rarely look at, almost never touch, and which therefore hides what many people don't want to see. In some people, this mark appears as a soft spot, in others as a slight elevation or even as a scar with no known origin. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't bother, but it's there, firm, constant. And for those who know how to look at it with awake eyes, it is a silent echo from another time. Ancient texts, forgotten by councils and hidden away in libraries that are of no interest to the modern world, speak with precision about this sacred spot. There, the mystical writings say, was where the spiritual wings were sealed at the moment the soul accepted the vibrational descent to earth. They weren't torn off, as many believe. They were put to sleep, sealed, hidden out of love, so that the light could fit inside matter and the spirit could bear the weight of the world without burning up inside. During the process of incarnation, the spiritual being goes through layers and layers of density until it adjusts to the frequency of earthly reality. Along the way, everything they were at the beginning is repressed, but not erased. And so, the body, limited, imperfect, forgotten, still tries to preserve something. It leaves clues. And this mark between the shoulders is one of them. Those who carry it tend to have a sensitivity they haven't learned, an empathy that seems to weigh too much, a connection with heaven that has never been explained, but has always been there. They dream of places that don't exist in this world. They feel pain that is not their own. They carry silences as if they were songs that the world has never understood. In moments of deep prayer or meditative states, some report feeling warmth in this region. Others feel as if something wants to expand, as if invisible wings were still trying to move. This mark is more than a sign. It's a spiritual seal. It is the physical memory of a being who has already flown and who has agreed to walk. A being who, out of love for a greater purpose, allowed its wings to be hidden so that it could touch those who live without knowing they have a soul. But the body doesn't forget the sky. And so, even sealed, the wings keep trying to remember. And in some, the heart also decides to leave a scar. There are whispers. The body keeps some not in the back where wings once rested, but right in front, where the heart beats with memories too ancient for words. A place few notice, yet many carry. The very center of the chest. Some have called it a small scar, others a faded mark over the sternum, right where the heart chakra pulses in silence. There was no surgery, no accident, no physical reason it should be there. And yet, it is. Quiet, present, persistent. As if something sacred once touched that space and left a trace the body couldn't erase. Mystical Christian texts, especially among Gnostic and Essene, traditions spoke of this scar as the seal of the pure heart. According to these ancient manuscripts, that point on the chest is not just skin and bone, it's the anchoring point of the angelic soul into human form. It's where spirit first touched matter, where heaven kissed the flesh and whispered, "Now go and remember." But incarnation is not simple. For a high-frequency soul to descend into a world so dense, it must pass through fire and forgetting. And the moment that soul binds to a body, it creates an impact so deep, the body sometimes registers it as a scar, not from trauma, but from transcendence. A burn not from pain, but from purity. Those who carry this mark are often different in a way they cannot explain. Their kindness is not learned, it's instinctual. Forgiveness is not a virtue, it's their nature. Even when the world wounds them, they continue to believe in something higher, something holding all things together. And often, when they pray in silence or enter deep spiritual moments, they feel a pulse in that region of the chest, a warmth, a stirring. Some cry without knowing why. Others feel their breath shift. That scar, invisible to most, is trying to speak, trying to remind. It is not decoration. It is not coincidence. It is a spiritual record etched into flesh off, a mission that began before this life ever did. And when that mark beats in unison with the one between the shoulders, a third signal begins to awaken from above. There is a place on the human face where memory lingers not the memory of this life, but of something older than the earth. It is a fine vertical line that rests between the eyebrows, or gently above the bridge of the nose. To some, it's a wrinkle of expression. To others, it's stress. But those who feel beyond the surface know it's something else entirely. This mark doesn't appear in everyone, and when it does, it often deepens during prayer, in moments of silent pain, or when one is caught in an unexplainable longing for something that can't be named. This is not a fold of agates, a crease of remembrance. Ancient mystical texts once referred to it as the line of remembering, a subtle fissure where the spirit tries desperately to reopen the channel that once connected it directly to the divine. Before you were born, before your body was formed, your soul stood in the light. It knew its purpose, its origin, its divine instruction. But once it descended into matter, that connection was veiled, muted by the density of this world. Still, the soul did not come unprepared. It left messages behind, and this line is one of them. It is not merely a physical indentation. It is a doorway, a quiet, sacred attempt by the body to remember what the mind has forgotten, to reawaken the passage once used by the soul to hear directly from above when there were no doubts, no confusion, no need for proof. This is why some people, even without understanding why, are drawn to spiritual truths no one else around them seems to seek, why they hunger for depth in a shallow world, why they feel things so deeply, yet can't explain what's missing. And often, these are the very people who carry the line of remembering prominently. It is the third sign, a signal that, even in forgetfulness, the soul refuses to be silenced. When this mark appears alongside the scar between the shoulder blades and the seal over the sternum, a hidden picture begins to form, a sacred geometry written not in symbols, but in skin. But such markings are not given freely. They are born of something older, something that began before your first breath. Not all souls come to earth in the same way. Some arrive to learn, to grow, to explore the density of matter. Others are called. And among those called, a few say yes, not out of pride, not out of superiority, but out of love so deep it defies reason. These are the ones who descend not to be seen, but to remind, not to rule, but to reignite what has been forgotten. And you may be one of them. Before the body, before the name, before the first breath, there was a moment, a still point in a realm where time does not exist. There, your soul was shown the world as it is and what it might become. You were shown the darkness, the forgetting, the pain. You were shown the silence you would walk through, the loneliness, the veil. And you were asked, will you go? No pressure, no force, just an invitation, a divine request to carry light into the places that had gone cold. And you said yes? But that yes came with a cost. You would forget. You would feel lost. You would be misunderstood, rejected, seen as too sensitive, too strange, too much. You would suffer without cause, cry without knowing why, and carry memories that no one else could validate. You would walk through life not knowing where the ache inside you came from, and yet you chose to come. You volunteered. Because even in the silence, even in the forgetting, something would remain. A trace, a scar, a mark. 3. Infected in the flesh, quietly waiting for the moment when your soul would begin to remember. Not through books, not through teachers, but through your own body, your own breath, your own pain, your own awakening. You were never meant to live like everyone else, and the marks prove it. Because no one receives them without first making a promise. And now, that promise is beginning to call you back. There comes a moment in the life of every marked soul when something shifts not in the world, but within. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself with clarity. It arrives quietly, like the ache before a storm, like the whisper of a name you haven't heard in lifetimes, and you don't even know what you're remembering. You just know something inside you has started to pulse again, like a light flickering behind your ribs, like a breath you didn't know you were holding, finally exhaled. This is how the soul begins to return to itself. Through the body, through the pain, through the signs it left behind when it knew it would forget. You start noticing the scar on your chest not as a flaw, but as a flame. You begin to feel the tension between your shoulder blades not as discomfort, but as the stretch of wings that once flew. And that line on your forehead, it begins to pulse when you pray. It stirs when you're alone in silence. It sharpens when truth brushes past your soul like a breeze from home. You cry for no reason. You long for places you've never seen. You look at the stars and feel like someone is waiting. This is not imagination. It is reconnection. It is the body awakening first, because it never forgot. It always knew. It carried the covenant through skin and blood, through form and frequency. And now that the soul is ready, the body begins to speak louder. Not in words, but in sensations, in dreams, in heat, in gravity. You begin to feel heavy when you stray from your path and light when you speak from your heart. You begin to sense that some pain is sacred, that some tears are not sadness, but release, that some scars are not wounds, but maps. You are not going crazy. You are going home. And once this remembering begins, there is no going back to sleep. Because the soul, once awakened, starts pulling everything toward its purpose, even your confusion, even your silence, even your mistakes. And the marks you carry, they are not random. They are the signal that the time of remembering is now. Because soon, the question will no longer be, why do I feel this way? But what am I here to do with it? You were not placed here to blend in. You were not sent to Earth to pass the time, to follow the script, or to sleepwalk through a life that was never meant to be ordinary. You were sent here marked not for the sake of appearances, but as a declaration of something the world would never understand. While others sought safety, you accepted the silence. While others came to learn, you came to awaken. And even though you agreed to forget, your body never did. It remembered through signs, through scars, through quiet discomforts that made no sense until now. These 3 sacred marks were never random. They were the traces of a deeper covenant, one you made before time began, a covenant to return to this world, not just to exist, but to transform it from within. That mark between your shoulder blades, it was never a flaw. It was the residue of wings sealed by love so that you could walk among those who had forgotten they could fly. That subtle scar at the center of your chest, it wasn't formed by accident. It's the echo of your first descent, the very place where your angelic essence anchored into flesh not to observe the world, but to carry compassion through it, and that delicate line on your forehead. That is not a wrinkle of age or tension. It is a fissure of remembrance, the soft reopening of the channel through which your soul once heard heaven clearly. When all 3 marks begin to resonate, something irreversible takes place. The soul awakens, and the veil begins to burn from the inside. You may have wondered for years why you felt out of place, why you cried without cause, why beauty hurt, why silence comforted you more than the noise of this world. But now you know. You were not meant to fit. You were meant to shine not above others, but from within. And if these words reached you, if your body responded before your mind could make sense of it, then it means the time has come. Not to perform, not to prove, but to remember. And if a part of you is stirring right now, if something in your heart or your skin whispered, "This is me," then don't keep it to yourself. Let your voice become part of the activation. Write, even in silence, the words that only the marked can feel. I carry the marks, because when one soul dares to say it, another finds the courage to remember. And perhaps that's why you're here. Not just to wake up, but to wake someone else. If something sacred moved within you today, even if you don't fully understand what it is, honor it. Let this be more than just a moment. Let it be the beginning of your return. Subscribe to this channel, not for more content, but for more confirmation. Because the next messages won't just inform you, they'll help you recognize yourself through every forgotten layer. This was never just a video. It was a whisper from your origin, a ripple from a choice you made before you had a name. And now, that choice is calling again. You were never meant to remain asleep. You were never sent to simply survive. You were chosen to remember and rise. We'll meet again. In the next calling,